Our SMA Associate, very own Simon Dekker, is going to talk to us a little bit about his career and his more current assignments here at SMA. Hello, Simon. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Okay, great. That helps. That's always a good sign.
It's just a button.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and share my screen here real quick, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Great.
Well, can you guys see my screen? That's the first question of the day.
Yes, we do. Yep.
Okay, great. Hey, talking about the Netherlands, I got to tell you that I was born in the Netherlands in Leiden.
Yep.
And what's really interesting is that my grandmother's maiden name is Bouchard.
Oh,
that's interesting. If you know anything about the Netherlands, there's one thing that you realize. People don't, the Netherlands is very small, and everybody says, oh, you're from Holland. No, there's 12 provinces in the Netherlands. And while I'm from South Holland, which is in a little city called Leiden, which there's a massive university there, but you can take a bicycle and leave from Amsterdam and go in any direction and be out of that country in 2 hours on a bicycle. So it's really a small little place. And showing the art today was really amazing too, because if you ever get a chance to go to the Rijksmuseum, when you take a look at those paintings, they absolutely are stunning, keeping in mind that at the time that these painters painted, they had to make their own colors, they had to make their own paints. That wasn't something you just went off and bought. These people were really colorized scientists. And when you look at those paintings, they almost always give you a reflection as if they're coming out as a hologram to you, that they are kind of like 3D. So I highly recommend that. Moving on with working here in terms of my experience and so on as the associate in the spotlight today. Hey, my name is Simon Dekker. I've enjoyed working at SMA for the past 2 years now, and I really have enjoyed working here big time. One of the big advantages of working at SMA is you never really know what your job is going to be. It changes, and in doing so, that kind of makes it very, very interesting. But for the most part, the things that I've done in the past is systems development. One of the things that Jock was involved in for quite decades, actually, that we sold an earned value management system. And so my forte really comes out of doing systems development, solution architecture, systems engineering, technology management. I had a really good intellectual properties management type history to me as well, program management, project management, and then my favorite topic of earned value management. But today I find myself in having done some very fun topics with regard to working for VT Halter Marine in terms of information technologies transformation. I think that was one of my first assignments that I got. Then I worked in EVMS system description, also at VT Halter, system description and certification of Vigor, worked there. And then my next assignment, which I've been working on now, it's getting close to a year, is working at KPMG Federal Advisory Services as a solution architect. And kind of like I've been coached by my mentor there, Lee Mantai, who got me into this capture management type attribute, and that's been a lot of fun. So I'm going to bring to light 2 projects that we've had that have been really interesting projects. And you know, when you're working on proposals, particularly for a company like KPMG, everybody kind of takes a look at KPMG and they say to themselves, hey, what do they do? Well, they're an accounting firm. That's really not what they do. They don't just focus on financial services and audits, even though they do a lot of that. They don't just focus on that. They have an entire consultative and advisory arm to them that works on a myriad of topics. And one of these that has been very interesting to me, even though it's had this proposal, you know, proposals tend to take a life of their own when they get to be relatively large numbers, has been the one for the VA Veterans Benefits Administration. And it's basically dealing with fraud prevention. When you look at the Veterans Benefits Association, again, something that has just recently touched me, and I'll get into that in just a second. They're really like an insurance firm, really, because what they do is they provide loans to veterans. They provide compensation, pensions, and life insurance to veterans. They provide medical medical services, and also education and final burial for veterans, as we were promised at once. If I have any other Semper Fi brothers and sisters out there, the Marine Corps, URA, I was part of that a long time ago in a completely different life. But I've had to deal with the VA recently, and some of the things on fraud prevention, which is what they're really wanting to do, has touched me as well, particularly in something recently that I had to go through for some medical help that I needed to receive here just recently. There is an initiative over there on fraud prevention. Fraud is a big deal. If you read in the newspapers, one of the things that the VA is always concerned about, they never want to appear in a bad way in the news, and they want to make sure that the recipient or the benefactor is actually receiving the payments. And when you take a look at the news just recently, unfortunately, they were in the news, there are so many different ways to commit fraud on trying to emulate that you're a veteran or trying to say that you are acting on behalf of a veteran, particularly in the realm of physical therapy or people that are actually acting on behalf of the veteran and saying that they're the key caregiver. Just recently, this was on GMA this morning, Good Morning America on ABC, that two caregivers to their fathers, both of them dealing with the fathers, admitted to fraud of over $150,000 each that they had in false benefits with regard to giving physical therapy and medical services, that they just kept filling in chits and getting paid for it, and the VA couldn't pick up on it, which is a problem. You got to remember that the VA has been around for a long time, and while this proposal took a life of its own, there were some issues that happened with it. Last year, there was an RFP that was actually retracted in 2020, and the reason is because they felt that RFP wasn't really what it was that they needed to have in terms of fraud protection services. They wanted to be more transformational. And then you hit the administrative change, because last year was Trump time. Now it's Biden time in terms of the administration. So there were a lot of holdups that caused this thing to delay. But this summer, the RFP is going to drop. And one of the things that I have to admit that KPMG, particularly the proposal director on this, she has had a tremendous degree of tenacity to keep following this big fish to try to bring in, and she's got management support as of 7/2 to continue working on this, and it's a big deal. And when we're looking at trying to be in the solution area, some of the things that you just think about that make it interesting is it isn't just systems. I mean, when you're dealing with the VBA, you're dealing with multiple agencies all over. You're dealing with, first of all, the Department of Defense. You got to get records coming in from the Department of Defense. So you got to make queries on that side. You have several other sub-agencies within the VA, aside from just VBA, that you have to deal with. And these multiple databases were done probably like in the late 80s, early 90s, all in silos. And so nothing really talks to each other. And here's a case in point. I just recently had a hip replacement with the VA paid for the majority of that surgery to be done, because I got injured in the Marine Corps. And they paid for this surgery to be done. But initially, when I applied to get support, they told me that I wasn't the person. And that was due to a practice in the days that I was in the Marine Corps. We're calling it the old Corps in this case. But when I was in, it was the new Corps, but now it's the old Corps. When they took you in, and I was a conscript, when you didn't have a middle name, in the middle name area, they would put NMN for no middle name. But somehow in today's area, that got tracked into Simon Dekker, and they thought that the NMN was my middle name, and I don't have a middle name. So when I applied for it, I got rejected for about 3 times until they finally caught up that on the Pacific side, it was very common to put NMN if there was no middle name. Things like that. Identifying the benefactor, making sure that the benefactor is getting paid. making sure that you can go in and try and find out all the different little things that would identify that benefactor is one of the biggest problems that they're having at the VA. Now they do 96% without any problem. I mean, they give about $130 billion worth of benefits out a year. That's their budget at the VBA, but they get a fairly decent exposure to it with regard to how are they going to find these particular correlations in trying to identify when a payment is bad. Nothing is worse to the VBA than trying to, what they do, crawl back a refund. Crawl back a refund means that they got to get a case manager out there, and that case manager has to go in manually, interrogate the system, and oops, they made a payment that wasn't due. Now they have to try and find it. And most of them, they're reluctant to go out for fraud because it could be an error in data that they have on their side, primarily because of all these segregate databases that they have out there, and also procedures. It's a lot of this is manual intervention. This is the sort of thing that this proposal is trying to solve. It's about an $80 million proposal. That's a rough guesstimate on my end. I can't really tell you what the number actually is going to be, but it's out there. It's out there on the web as to the RFQ that was out there last year. We don't see any changes going on in here, but coming up with a solution for that is a winning solution has now turned in from, oh, we know all the things about this from a point of view of systemic. They don't really want that. They want this to be more transformational and more of an engagement point of view, where we help learn on what's already there. We try to take what's already there, make use of it. We try to find the gaps of what's there, and then maybe add on different systems, because everybody's buying systems, and they at the end of the day, they don't talk, and they just create to the calamity. So that's one project that I'm working on that I absolutely love. And we'll see where that goes, because that proposal is supposed to drop sometime around July 16th, which is a big thing. The next one was, it's a huge one that I worked on that was noteworthy. And that's for the complete transformation, modern transformation of the Naval Supply Command. Again, as a Marine, you know, the Naval Supply Command has an interesting job. It's not really quite what you can just take out of a normal logistics when you're in commercial. I worked for 7 years as a CIO to a $2.5 billion transportation company. We had 88 distribution centers worldwide. And we also had about a fleet of 10,000 trucks. And in any given moment, approximately 3,500 trucks were on the road at any given time. We actually had 2 trucks that were operating between New York and Miami as a test that were actually completely automated. They had a driver on board, but they were automated trucks. They did about 3 million miles each. But it all came to pass on this one that all worked really well with regard to trying to use that information on this proposal. They want to modernize everything. They have a global problem. They want to modernize everything from how they support ground, fleet, nav, air, weapons, getting weapons out to the fleet, getting weapons out to the ground support units that are out there, and make sure that they take care of the war fighter that's out there as well. Not just in terms of weapons, uniforms, and equipment, but also with regard to having some of the comforts of life as well. Obviously, if you ever go on board a carrier, you realize that a carrier is really a walking city. I mean, they have when they have aircraft on board, there's about 5,000 people that are on a city, on that little floating city, and they have movies, they have McDonald's, they have fast food places that are on there, they have an entire store. They have to supply everything. So KPMG has vast experience there with doing the audits, and in doing the audits, they could identify efficiency issues, but now they have proven that they can also solve those issues that they find as well. So we're pretty sure that we're going to win this one. This is a huge one. It is an IDIQ type award, and it's massive. Some of the challenges that we faced there was, hey, the Amazon system, the Amazon syndrome is huge. It's everywhere. Everybody says, well, hey, listen, if I can buy something on Amazon and they can tell me a promise date that they're going to hit to about a 90% accuracy, why can't you do that? So they're looking at that. They're trying to increase They're trying to increase their efficiency. They're trying to make absolutely sure that from the time of sourcing to the time it's delivered out in the fleet, keeping in mind that this could be delivered from the ship, this could be delivered to a ground unit, this could be delivered to a warehouse on a global scale, that they want to make sure that they can make those supply issues in terms of about $80 billion worth of property flowing through their warehouses and flowing through their entire flow chain. They want to make sure that they can make the average wait time something that is sustainable, something that's really efficient, to something that's quite unique in terms of, you're talking about moving a moving fleet that's moving around that has to be supplied. You're talking about aircraft that need spare parts that are on these ships or that are on ground bases. And you're talking about ground forces that also have to be supplied. It's a massive problem. What makes the logistics in this particular aspect unique is we all have returns. I mean, you can't do business without doing returns. People don't like a product, they like to know that they can return it. What makes the Navy unique is that the return has to be tracked to the same pedigree as what an order is. From the point of sourcing to the point of delivery. You also have to take from the point of delivery and flow it back to the point of origin when there's maintenance, repair, and overhaul. Let's say on a jet engine, somebody blows out a jet engine out on an aircraft carrier. They've got to get that piece of equipment back. They have to get a new one out, and then they have to take that older engine and send that back to the manufacturer to get refurbished and come back. That's what makes it unique. And trying to manage all that in this IDIQ contract that's out there is a big deal. So putting the solution for that, we dropped the proposal out back to the customer back about 2 months ago, and now we're waiting on award. We're pretty sure that we're going to get the award for the IDIQ, which opens up the field of play for us to get on task orders that they're going to get out. This contract overall is probably worth somewhere on the order of magnitude of about $300 million. It was a great contract to work on, and you talk about the skill set that KPMG actually has, even in the warehouses, particularly in the Marine Corps that they're already at. Doing the Marine Corps warehouses, flowing all the way out throughout the United States, doing the experience base that they have in the on the fleet with regard to the audits on Naval Supply Command was also there. So this was a great opportunity, and these things have been keeping me busy for a long time. I have to really thank Lee Manti and Tom Hernandez for this, and I also want to make sure that I thank Greg Ward and Jacques Keats for making sure that I get these wonderful assignments like this, because it's like I can't believe that I actually get an opportunity to go to work where I get to learn as much as I get to give. It's a great place to work. KPMG actually rocks, and thank you very much. And that is my presentation. I hope I made the 10 minutes.
Wow, thank you so much, Simon, for such an eloquent discussion of these two projects in particular.
Yeah.
Both of them seem just incredibly exciting projects to be on.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah, the logistics, as you said, Simon, everybody thinks about Amazon and what they've done to conquer logistics, but the complexities of, logistics in the military have a variety of other attributes that Amazon doesn't have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about jet engines or weapons or ammunition and any other number of things that have to get moved. The problem becomes more complex, and security becomes a bigger issue.
It does. So we're keeping our fingers crossed on the logistics contract, and it sounds like we're on a good path to helping them win this the Veterans Benefit Administration.
Absolutely. And one thing I'd be remiss in not mentioning is, we do a lot with interns here. And we've had interns at town halls, et cetera. It was 40 years ago, when I was 19, that Simon took me under his wing and helped me get my career started. So that thanks goes in both directions, Simon.
So as an intern working under Simon so many years ago, did you end up having to do a number of things that we're asking our current set of interns to do?
No, not really. Simon ran his departments like the Marine Corps.
Okay, Semper Fi.
Yeah, core values, baby. That's what we did, without a doubt.
That's it. And the one thing that Simon made very clear, though, is if you make a promise, show up with it.
Yeah,
Don't
you're
let
right.
anybody down.
You're right.
You know,
You're right.
and that's something I've always
It's a
carried
great
forward.
thing to learn. Great thing to learn.
Yeah.
So Simon, I hope that you got your middle name fixed. With the
Yeah, I did.
VA.
I got it fixed. Yep.
So, did you fix it to M&M, or did you just fix it to your correct real middle name?
Well, you know, I thought I
Yeah.
might give a little bit of whirl and maybe doing some pop music and keep the M&M, because that kind of sounds like M&M. So
Exactly.
M&M. So I thought it might have. No, I got rid of that. I didn't want that in there at all. It really caused some confusion.
Yeah, actually, I think they still use the NMI on the SF-86 security forms. And actually, I think on password forms and other forms, the government still is stuck with this NMI concept.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
for
That
listening.
was such an eloquent description and an exciting way for us to learn about what you've been doing there at KPMG.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the great work there. You've endeared yourself to the client and certainly have had a very positive impact.